Good Monday afternoon to you. Hope you had a great weekend. Thanks for joining us on Sports4CLE. Plenty of Browns talk straight ahead. Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com will join us a little bit later on. We will talk Browns-Lions, look ahead to Browns-Ravens, look at the picture ahead moving forward in the playoffs. We begin by talking about that 13-10 win for the Browns, now 6-5 on the season, still kind of in the middle of things in the AFC North as far as chasing that division title. Let's head into the Browns locker room to hear Kevin Stefanski addressing the team after that win.
Great team win, fellas. Great team win. Defense outstanding. They ripped one off there at the end, but 2 takeaways. Playing the pass game, you held them to 77 yards. Well done. Employee number 24 showed up to work today. 130 yards as an offense at 186 yards rushing. Guys, when you run like that, okay, obviously, Nick, great job. But when you do that, that's the fullback, that's the offensive line, that's the line. Where are we right now? Where are we? 6-5, okay? You got a 2-game series against the division champs right now, okay? Just like Coach Mitchell said last night, hey, it's only just begun right now, okay? So we got to get back in. We got to recalibrate. Is there stuff to clean up? Oh, yeah. All right, the penalties, number 1. That needs to get cleaned up, okay? Has to. We can't do the things that we want to do if we keep getting our own way. But this team, you know what this team does? This team fights their ass off. They fight their ass off. I appreciate it. Let's have a great work week and then 2-game series, all right? Team on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Let's welcome in Dan Labbe, Browns beat reporter for Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. And Dan takes you inside and it tells you a couple of things. I love employee number 24. That's a perfect fitting way to refer to Nick Chubb. And the penalties have got to stop. So just when you look at that, a lot closer than it probably should have been, especially given who was on the other side of the football for the Lions.
Yeah, it really was. And even just after the game, when you heard guys talk, and then today hearing Kevin talk and Baker and J.C. Treader, it just, it didn't feel like they won a football game and a big football game on Sunday, one that they had to have. You're supposed to beat the Lions. They're a winless team. All they've been able to do so far this season is tie the Steelers. And, man, that win felt so much. I mean, I hate to say this about a win because it's hard to win in the NFL, but there were a lot of things that made that win feel a little bit like a loss after the game. But one of those things was not Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb was fantastic on Sunday. He kind of carried that offense on a day when it was gross and rainy and Baker was struggling. Like you said, employee number 24 is very fitting for him as he gets behind that offensive line and racks up a bunch of yardage. But certainly a flawed performance as they head into probably their most important stretch of football games.
Yeah, the interesting thing is, and I say they should have won bigger. And keep in mind, there are teams. The Ravens almost lost to the Bears. The Titans lost a game they should have won. So the Browns have not had a horrible, horrible loss yet this year, but they also haven't had a really good win either. By definition, that's a 500 football team, isn't it?
Yeah, they're pretty much where they are. And to be fair, the Ravens needed a 66-yard field goal to beat this Lions team. So Detroit has given teams problems this season. They're a physical team. They play tough. I think they know what they want to be. But I think it was just particularly disappointing considering they were playing a quarterback no one had really ever seen play or heard of. I don't even know how they dug up any relevant film on him for this football game. So it's just one, I guess you kind of take the win, you flush it, and you just hope that next week and in Baltimore is going to be better.
Yeah, the other thing that happened is, Baker Mayfield did not talk to the media post-game, which is very strange. He did talk to the media today and just kind of talked about why he did not meet with them yesterday and just kind of things moving forward.
Yeah, I was frustrated, among other things. I've never dodged any questions or hid away from that. So it's not about that. Just frustrated, removed emotions and all that from it. Just decided it was best to wait.
I think that's what surprised us all, Baker, is that you pride yourself on being that guy and being accountable and stepping forward. And
not one part of that's not being accountable. I'd be the first to tell you I played like shit. So it's not about accountable, and I don't owe you guys any of that. I owe that to my teammates, and I talk to them, so that's what matters. So.
And Dan, he's a guy that's not happy with his performance, and we know that.
Right. And Baker's not wrong in the fact that he doesn't necessarily owe us anything. But at the same time, there is that responsibility after a game. And as a quarterback, you really bear a certain responsibility. It's really the head coach talks after every game and the quarterback talks after every game. And, I don't think fans really care necessarily about the nuts and bolts of our jobs and how we approach them and whether we actually get to talk to guys or not. But it was a bad look for Baker Mayfield to not speak after that game with the way he walked off the field. And it was just sort of a weird vibe. I am glad that he came back and talked today via Zoom. But, the reality is the Browns have had quarterbacks over the years talk after worse games than that. They've had, guys like Joe Thomas and Joe Bitonio have had to stand at their lockers and talk after difficult games. It's something you just kind of have to do, and hopefully Baker will learn from this.
Yeah, and again, I get it. He's going through a lot. So give him the benefit of the doubt, and we'll see what happens moving forward. All right. Kevin Stefanski talked about the health of Baker Mayfield and just kind of going into the decisions to keep putting him out there. He clearly is not 100%. Here's Kevin Stefanski on continuing to play Baker Mayfield.
We'll always defer to the medical staff and making sure that a guy is ready to go. Obviously, have discussions with the players in that same vein. We won't put guys out there that can't protect themselves. To say that Baker's not battling, I think you all know that. But he's ready to play and ready to help the team win. But we'll always have those conversations week to week. If he's limited, like you said, and can't play up to his potential, those are things that we'll discuss. But he's played pretty well at times in the last few weeks. So we'll make sure that we have those discussions and we'll never do anything that's not in the best interest of the team. Yeah, I wouldn't characterize it as a worse spot. I think, we've talked about this. He's talked about it. He's battling. He doesn't feel 100%. And I don't know many guys that do feel 100% at this point, but he's definitely battling.
And Dan, it's kind of interesting. He's clearly affected by, now it's the shoulder, the knee, the heel, the ankle. He's got more dings on him than the 90 Ford Explorer or whatever. But he's trying to fight his way through it.
Yeah, and you respect that element of him trying to get out there, trying to play through the injuries, and I do think guys respect that and feed off that a little bit. But I thought it was interesting that Kevin Stefanski didn't just come out and say that Baker was definitely going to play against Baltimore on Sunday night. Now, if he does it again on Wednesday, that's going to be particularly interesting. But I do think he left the door open just a little tiny bit to kind of wiggle out of maybe playing Baker Mayfield on Sunday night. I would still lean towards him playing, but after what we saw Sunday, they won that game obviously with Baker banged up, but you kind of looked at it and said, did he do anything that Case Keenum couldn't have done in that game? And is it maybe wise to maybe give him a couple weeks heading into the bye? Unfortunately, you've just reached the point of the season where every game really matters now. You've got all these division games. Every game is a tough game. So I just don't know if they can get away with that.
Takeaways after watching the Lions game again. The Browns win. Bottom line is you win, and that's the most important thing. But takeaways after you watch that one.
Yeah, with the win, at least you're 6-5. You're still looking up at the rest of the division, and you're still looking up at the AFC playoff picture. You're in 10th place now. So I know we're going to get into that a little bit later. But to me, I just think, look, a win's a win. You take it. I guess you don't complain about it. But at the same time, the NFL playoff race starts Thanksgiving weekend. So it's now when they head to Baltimore on Sunday night. And I kind of wrote about this a little bit today. I don't know if this team is like, if they had to play a wild card game on Sunday, which they kind of do. It's not win or go home, but it's really important. If they had to play a wild card game on Sunday, would I feel confident that they could go win that game? And right now, I just don't have a ton of confidence in this team in that regard. So they've really got to get this thing turned around, and they don't have a lot of time to do it.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I don't think there's not been any consistency. So they could go out and put 45 on the Ravens. They could go out and get shut out by the Ravens. There's that wide of a variety, I think, in what we've seen from this team.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those games that makes you look foolish when you pick the game. Because, like you said, you could pick the Ravens to win by 2 scores and the Browns could go win 45-30 or 40-25 like they did a few years ago. Or you could be confident and pick the Browns and, Lamar Jackson could run wild and make this defense look bad like New England did last week. So there's so much variance with this football team. And I do think getting the bye week is going to help them sort of figure some of that stuff out and stabilize a little bit. But you're right. I just don't know what we get from this football team week to week.
Dan Labbe and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we'll look a little bit at the Browns' defense. Another area, kind of a head-scratcher. Not sure what you're going to get from the defensive side of the ball. We will also take a look at the penalties. Kevin Stefanski alluded to it. We'll hear more. Browns trying to clean those up. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. Dan Labbe and I continue talking Browns, getting ready for the Lions. Kevin Stefanski talked about the possibility of getting Kareem Hunt and Jack Conklin back at practice this week as well as that win against the Lions.
Should be able to get Kareem and Jack back for practice this week at some point. And then on the game, hard fought. Good to get a win at home. Always things that we can clean up and we can be better as coaches, players, as a team. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to look at those things and that we can improve. And then knowing we got a big one this week. But first things first, we got to make sure that we look at the tape and find some areas that we can get better.
And Dan Labbe, if Kareem Hunt is back, I think the offense is significantly better. Same can be said of Jack Conklin.
I mean, they need to get Jack back on that right side. Blake Hance is, filled in nobly, but he's not Jack Conklin. He's an all-pro, high draft pick. It really was one of this team's best offensive linemen a year ago. They need him back out there. And, Nick Chubb came back on Sunday and was fantastic. He looked like Nick Chubb, especially at the end of that game. But then you throw in Kareem Hunt and all the things that he could do. J.C. Tretter called him the team's Swiss Army knife today. And he just brings this energy and this he's kind of like, what's that saying, the rolling ball of knives that was used for another running back in the NFL. He just has that Tasmanian devil quality to him, and I think the Browns really need that. He's still second on the team in total touchdowns and second in reception, or fourth in reception, so he's still very important to what this team wants to do offensively, especially with the passing game struggling.
So Dan, you tweeted this out. Browns had 6 pressures yesterday. According to Pro Football Focus, Myles Garrett had 4, Malik McDowell had 2. Here's Kevin Stefanski today on that defense creating more pressure.
Yeah, I think those are definitely things that we've been talking about. I think yesterday's game, was pretty unique in how much the run game was going to factor into it, and some of the screens and limiting those opportunities. But definitely, as we talked about going into last week's ball game, we spent a lot of time on third down and some of the things that we need to make sure we're thinking about moving forward, so that we are applying consistent pressure to the quarterback.
And Dan, if not Tim Boyle, who you getting after?
The concerning thing to me moving forward is we saw it kind of start against New England, and Josh McDaniels had a real plan to sort of negate the Browns' pass rush, and they didn't create a ton of pressure on Mac Jones. It was screens. It was a lot of things John Johnson said after the game. They sort of just ran things that we hadn't been able to stop all season over and over again. And Myles Garrett indicated yesterday after the game that Detroit kind of was doing the same thing New England was doing, except of course, Myles didn't say this, I'm adding this, but Detroit's not good enough to do the things that New England was doing well. So I'm a little concerned heading into this Baltimore game, a team with a little more talent, a team that can do some of that screen game stuff and kind of use the Browns' aggression in the pass rush against them. I'm a little nervous to see if Greg Roman kind of picks some of that stuff up and throws it at the Browns. And then also, let's see how the Browns adjust, because it's happened to them 2 games in a row now, and they've got to come up with a way to create pressure.
Well, the other thing is the run defense. Swift had a big game, and Kevin Stefanski talked about that run defense against the Lions.
Yeah, I would tell you we gave up too many rush yards in that second half, and it's just a matter of fits and tackling. And sometimes it's tackling, sometimes it's tracking to the tackle. We didn't do a great job, and that team runs a physical run game. We saw it the week before where they ripped off some runs, and if you don't tackle well versus players like Swift, they have the chance to go the distance. So we got to clean that up.
The things that I don't want to hear when the Ravens are coming to town is run fits, bad tackling, and tracking, because you not only have to do that for the running back, there's a certain quarterback that's likely coming to town or coming to play that is a problem with all the time, and that's Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, you're playing a quarterback who, when you look at rushing leaders every year, he's right there with like Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb and the guys that lead the NFL from the running back position in rushing. So he's so dangerous. And, I had a moment yesterday. I'm watching DeAndre Swift on that 57-yard run, and Grant Delpit and John Johnson, Ronnie Harrison all seem to take bad angles in the same play. And you just thought, Lamar sees this, that's going to be trouble. It's going to start again kind of up front. Can those guys kind of keep Lamar contained? Can they make sure he doesn't break free? Having Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, who Kevin said should be able to play this week, that's going to help a lot too. But they've got to get this run game figured out, because Baltimore has a system. They know how they want to play, even if they don't have their star backs. They're all hurt, and they're down to, I don't even know what, their 4th or 5th running back at this point. They can still figure out a way to run the football, especially with Lamar.
Yeah, and that's been a problem for the Browns without question. Another thing that has been a huge problem is penalties. Kevin Stefanski talked about it in that locker room speech that we heard. So 80 penalties on the year, second most in the NFL, 726 penalty yards against the Browns. That is the most in the NFL. Yesterday it was 10 for 82, which had their attention. Kevin Stefanski and J.C. Tretter both talked about the penalties against the Lions, especially the pre-snap variety.
I think the penalties. We didn't stay on track. We beat ourselves too often, and then the giveaway there. That's just we did some things that are going to prevent you from scoring any second half points, and that's what happened. We got to score points. We have to score more points, period. I think you know that. But even in that second half, we gotta go find a way to score some points. And we didn't do that, and especially operationally with those penalties, that they really hurt us.
If the answer was easy, it would be quick to stop. It's just focus at this point. It's just understanding. You need to be hyper aware and hyper focused to avoid those. And those are just purely mental lapses. The pre-snap penalties, those are all 100% avoidable. And we just have to do a better job as players. There's nothing, can't coach that out of us. We just have to do our jobs.
And Dan, that's That's a valid point by J.C. Tretter. I mean, what more can Kevin Stefanski do? They restart things during periods when there are penalties to try to help them understand the importance of it. At some point in time, coaches aren't on the field.
Yeah, and you hate in this late in the season, you've got defensive linemen who are going off sides and running off the field like it's training camp or preseason, and then you've got the false starts or the illegal shifts. I mean, those things shouldn't be happening in this game. You're going to have some penalties, like you're going to have a Harrison Bryant hold that probably shouldn't have been flagged, or you're going to have some things in the flow of a play that a ref is going to throw a flag on. Sometimes it's going to hurt you, sometimes it's going to benefit you, but you can't have the pre-snap stuff. That's the stuff that you have absolute control over. Don't flinch, don't line up wrong. If you're supposed to be on the line of scrimmage, be there. If you're not, don't be there. It's little stuff like that kills you. The holding calls stink, but those things that you can avoid that make it 1st and 15 or turn a 3rd and 3 into a 3rd and 8. I mean, those are things that can change games and that are very fixable.
Dan Labbe and I are going to step aside, take a timeout. On the other side of the break, we will hear more about from Shannon Sharpe about Baker Mayfield and the Browns yesterday. Plus, we'll look at Pro Football Focus's highest graded Browns for Week 11. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
We continue talking Browns, getting ready to face the Baltimore Ravens Sunday night in Baltimore. Shannon Sharpe was talking about Baker Mayfield and the Browns against the Lions yesterday on FS1's Undisputed.
They're very fortunate that they played the Lions because Tim Boyle, almost beat. They ran the ball 36 rushes for 184 yards, 5.1. They got Nick Chubb back doing Nick Chubb type things. And Baker Mayfield was barely 50%. Barely 50 with 2 picks. Now, I want to know who's responsible for this now that you removed the excuse machine, which is Odell. That narrative that Odell was the cause because Baker. You know why people are so upset? Because they want to make Baker elite. If you look at Baker Mayfield as an average quarterback, you wouldn't nearly be as upset. I'm not upset when he plays bad because I see him for what he is. It's the other people that try to make Baker elite. He's a first-round pick. Oh, we went to Oklahoma, and Baker, he's the Pied Piper. He's like, woo-woo! And everybody came marching in attention.
Yep.
All I know is what I see. Now, I kept telling you, he's the 3rd best quarterback in that draft. He's not good as Lamar. He's not good as Josh Allen. Even though
you kept telling me Sam Darnold was the best quarterback in that draft.
Well, really? You know what, Skip?
Yikes.
He might be a dressed-up Sam Darnold. He might be a dressed-up Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold, huh? And the other thing is, the Baltimore Ravens were the only people that thought Lamar Jackson was a first-round draft pick, so a tip of the hat to the Baltimore Ravens. They clearly got that right. The other thing is, Baker Mayfield's not average. I don't know that he's elite, but he's better than average. right now he's beat up too.
Yeah, I would hope that when all is said and done, Baker at least lands somewhere in that, above average category. And I agree. I don't think he's ever going to be that necessarily top 5 guy that maybe he showed in the second half of last year. I think there were a lot of factors that were involved in that. Teams have kind of adjusted now a little bit. You mentioned it, he's banged up. And I think that's what makes this evaluation so difficult. Like, we just don't know how much these injuries are affecting him. How much of this is just teams have adjusted and they're keeping him in the pocket a little more and taking away some of the things that worked last year? How much of it is just he doesn't have the weapons on the outside we thought he would have? It just didn't work out with some of these guys, Odell Beckham specifically, but they've been dealing with injuries. There's so many factors around trying to make this evaluation on Baker Mayfield. And unfortunately for the Browns, it's coming at a time where they have to make an evaluation on Baker Mayfield. So, I think because of everything, we're not going to have a real answer by the end of this season as to exactly who Baker Mayfield is and where he fits sort of in those quarterback tiers.
Yeah, and the flip side of it is good GMs don't rush to make those evaluations. I consider Andrew Berry a good GM, so I think he's going to have to let it play out, because I agree with you. I don't think you get a read. This year's been a difficult year to really evaluate Baker Mayfield. So Baker Mayfield, without question, frustrated, and he admitted it. He is beat up, banged up, multiple places. He talked about what was the most frustrating yesterday in that win against the Lions.
For me, decision-making was great. It was the lack of execution. I think there were some plays that just – I'm not going to make every throw. Nobody does that, but very, very frustrated with how, where I was going with the ball compared to, how the results were. That's very, very frustrating. I've always been an accurate guy, and that was not the case yesterday. And that's extremely frustrating to me when I feel like I let my teammates down. Preparation week, everything leading up to the game was great. Felt like I was in a good position to be able to play and play at a high level, and I didn't. So that's a very frustrating thing.
Hey, Baker, how much do you attribute the injuries to the inaccuracy you just talked about?
I mean, there's some that between weather and that, but it's not something that I'm going to say, hey, this is why. I made a lot of throws yesterday, and then I didn't make a lot of throws yesterday. And so there's give and take, but I expect myself to be better, and that's how I've always been.
And Dan, I think that's the reason Baker Mayfield's a little frustrated, is he knows he has to play better, and for whatever reason can't quite put it together.
The process, really, it sort of sounds like he was okay with the process on some of these things, but the results didn't work out. And I'm just thinking of that Jarvis Landry overthrow. You had play action. That's where Baker excels. You look to his left at David Njoku first and like what he saw, so he went back to Landry, which seemed to be the right thing. Landry was open, and then he just sailed the ball over Landry's head and turned it over. Now, luckily for the Browns, they got an interception of their own to get the football back. But it was little things like that where the process maybe was sound, but maybe there was some footwork off, or maybe he just didn't deliver the ball on time or to the right spot, or like I said, just straight overthrew somebody. There were a couple throws yesterday where you looked at it and said, okay, I remember that guy. The throw to Rashard Higgins, he had a throw to Jamarcus Bradley. Those were two very good throws. It's just there wasn't that consistency over the course of 60 minutes, and there was too much inaccuracy and too many bad things to kind of just be able to focus on those two throws and say, hey, maybe this guy has it figured out right now.
Yeah, and that's kind of a microcosm of what we've seen this season. You've had spots, Cincinnati, everything looked like it was on track, and then you follow it up with a game where it's like, wow, the Patriots, where'd that go? And you come back and it's got to be wildly concerning for folks in that, in Berea that are trying to put things together. All right, we'll move on. Pro Football Focus, highest graded Browns from week 11. Joel Bitonio, pretty consistently up there. Denzel Ward as well. Nick Chubb, 83.8. You see Harrison and D'Ernest Johnson. Chubb looked healthy, and when you look at it, 22 carries, 130 yards, couple of catches, 14 yards, had a touchdown reception as well. So employee number 24 doing what he does for the Browns.
and able to finish that game too. It was a little, there were times when I thought maybe he wasn't quite back 100% because Dearness Johnson did get a fair amount of playing time, but when they needed Nick Chubb to come in and finish that football game, he did it. He got first downs, he ran hard, and that looked like the Nick Chubb that we know. He said when he first tested positive for COVID, he did have some symptoms for about a day. He didn't feel well. So maybe there were still some lingering effects from that, even though, it was a few weeks ago. But he really did, by the end of that game, look like Nick Chubb. And that's what you need going to Baltimore. This team, when you mentioned Cincinnati, right, everything kind of went right in that game. And that all kind of starts with Nick Chubb and that run game and just being able to sort of control the football and control what you're doing on offense and not have to just react to what the other side is doing.
Dan Labbe, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com, and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. When we return, we will turn our attention to the Ravens game and the final 6 games of the regular season. Can the Browns make a playoff push to get back into the playoffs? We'll dive into that. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Thanks for buying a fishing license. I want you to picture all the great things this simple purchase does. Like building public boat ramps, keeping local waters clean, and maintaining a healthy fish population.
What's Mom doing?
When you buy a fishing license, you do a lot. Every dollar protects and maintains your local waterways for future generations to enjoy. Visit takemefishing.org.
Dan Labbe and I continue talking Browns. Browns getting ready for a Sunday night game in Baltimore against the Ravens. Browns 6-5 on the year. Baker Mayfield, J.C. Tretter talked about how important this game against the Ravens is.
This is a huge game for us because it's the next one and it's a division opponent. Big picture wise, everybody wants to act like the world's falling. No, we haven't played to our potential, and we know that more than anybody because we sit there and watch the film and we know what we're supposed to do. And we have 6 wins, and the Ravens are leading the division with 7. So we know what's at stake. We know what we need to do, and that's how we're going to handle it this week.
Yeah, I mean, we're a 6-5 football team. We've got a really big game against the Ravens this week. Then the bye week, and then we got a stretch of really good teams we're going to be playing to end the season. But all the things we wanted to accomplish at the beginning of the year before the season started are still attainable. They're still out in front of us. So, the season hasn't gone exactly how we wanted it to. There are things we wish we would have done differently or played better at times. But again, everything we wanted to accomplish week 1 of the season going forward is still out there.
And Dan Labbe, I get what both Baker Mayfield and J.C. Tretter are saying, and I agree. The question is, and I will give them, it has seemed whenever people seem to count them out and everything seems the longest of odds, they seem to find a way to just put everything together and come up with a good game. The Odell, with all the Odell thing, you come back and you beat up the Bengals, who are a really good team. Shorthanded, they find a way to beat the Denver Broncos with Case Keenum as the starting quarterback. So I wouldn't put it, I wouldn't be terribly surprised if they come out and beat the Ravens. But, man, there hasn't been any consistency.
Yeah, it's just hard to kind of close your eyes and see what that looks like at 11:30 on Sunday night with the Browns finishing out the Ravens and winning a huge game. JC and Baker, I don't want to say they downplayed it. They didn't make it just seem like, okay, it's the next game on the schedule. And yes, it's important because it's a division game. The reality is these are the two most important games of your season right now. Now, that could change if you go win them both, obviously, but you're 2 losses behind the Ravens. You're only 1 win behind them, like Baker said, but you're 2 losses behind them. If you win both these games, you're pretty much dead even. If you lose both of them, you're not going to win the division. So these are essentially the 2 most important games they're going to play. And I would imagine in that building, well, they might, publicly be saying to us, okay, it's the next game, it's a division game, it's Baltimore. Yes, it's important. I would imagine in the building, they are playing up the importance of this game and really these next 2 games as they go against the Ravens.
Yeah, I mean, if they find a way to beat the Ravens twice, it's back to the Super Bowl train is again running through Berea and Cleveland, and they do have the advantage between the 2 Browns games. The Ravens have to play the Steelers. All right. Having said that, let's take a look at this tweet. This one's from Ben Axelrod. Browns have the toughest remaining schedule in the NFL based on opponents' winning percentage. The second, third, and fourth toughest also belong to the rest of the AFC North. And Dan, that's more of a testament to how good the AFC North is, because everybody in the division has to play each other is basically where we're at in the season.
Yeah, exactly. They've got to go against each other. And then you look at Baltimore, I believe they still have to play the Rams. We know the Browns still have to go play the Packers. And the Raiders, who are, a challenging team, even though they're kind of going the wrong direction. They've had so many things happen to them in the last couple months. Yeah, it's going to be really difficult. And when you look at the Browns, this has sort of been the bugaboo for them, right? It's kind of beating really good teams. The Bengals, I think you would count on that. I think they're a good football team. The Vikings, maybe that was a tough one, but they're playing well right now. But I was just curious. I looked it up. The Browns actually have the lowest strength of victory, meaning the teams they've beaten in their total wins in the division. So they've got to change that here. They've got a chance to do it because they've got Baltimore twice, and they finish against Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. So their destiny is still in their hands. They've just got to go out and take care of business against a very difficult schedule.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. So it's the Ravens twice, the Steelers, the Bengals, the Raiders, the Packers. So when you look at the playoff picture, Browns are currently 10th in the AFC. Now, the reason everybody is saying the best way for them to get in is to win the North is because if you look at the teams above them, you're going to see a lot of the teams that the Browns have lost to, the Patriots, the Chiefs, the Chargers. So those teams would have tiebreakers over the Browns in head-to-head matchups should they end with the same record. So, again, these games, their margin for error has been exhausted, basically.
Yeah, and what really complicates it is now all of a sudden you have, they're coming on, and they are, I believe, they're first place in the West right now. So now you've got to deal with the Chargers in the wild card race, the Raiders wild card race. And the same thing is sort of happening in the East. New England is sort of taking control of that division. Now the Bills and Patriots are going to beat up on each other here in this last month. I believe they play each other twice starting this week. So that's going to help you a little bit, but it just throws more teams into that wild card mix. So for the Browns, they just need to focus on trying to win that division. And it's not going to be easy. I mean, Pittsburgh, we saw them on Sunday Night Football. They're actually starting to play a little bit better, and they've treaded water. And lucky for the Browns, they get to play the Steelers on Monday Night Football on what could be Big Ben's last game in Pittsburgh. So that's just another hurdle that they're going to have to overcome as they try and get back in this division race and win this thing.
All right, so when you look at the Ravens, the obvious question, what are some of the keys? How do they do it? What do they need to make sure happens if the Browns are going to get that win and get to 7-5?
It's really simple. You've just got to contain Lamar Jackson. Assuming he is back, assuming he is anywhere close to 100% as he comes back from whatever this virus was that kept him out of the game on Sunday. If he's playing and he's 100%, he's a problem. But you've kind of built this defense to stop Lamar Jackson, whether they want to admit it or not. You have these dominant, big, athletic ends because of Lamar Jackson. You drafted Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah to deal with mobile quarterbacks and a guy specifically like Lamar. And then John Johnson, too. He's going to be really important. He's had a very up and down season, but his athleticism, his ability at that second level to run around and chase guys around, this defense is built to try and stop Lamar. I don't know that you can shut him down, but you've got to make sure he doesn't go out and rush for 100 yards against you and have a game like he did against the Vikings, where he put up something like 400 yards of offense on his own. You've got to avoid that because he really is sort of, I mean, he's the Ravens offense right now. They don't have a great running back. Their receivers are a little bit iffy. He is their offense, so it all starts with him.
And the other thing is that Ravens defense is not what it used to be, basically because of injuries. That's a defense that has struggled to stop the pass. I mean, that's what it is. Their secondary is beat up.
Yeah, you can throw on that defense. And you know, unfortunately, you can throw on Detroit's defense too. And it just didn't work out, so the Browns have to get that figured out. But, you know, you can throw a little bit on Baltimore's defense. Stats tell you that. You know, the analytics websites, the PFF grades, Football Outsiders, they all tell you that this pass defense leaves something to be desired. So you should be able to throw on them and maybe get something going. It would help to have Kareem Hunt, we talked about earlier, but also Donovan Peoples-Jones, to have him back off that groin injury, just to give you something downfield, some sort of threat down the field. That'll help this a lot. So, you know, I don't know if this is going to be a shootout, but it very well could turn into one with both of these defenses.
And the flip side of it is, if the Browns can find a way to go into Baltimore and win, it puts all the pressure on the Ravens, because then the Browns have a bye. You know what happened after the bye a year ago, and then they come back and play the Ravens. So you've really put the pressure on the Ravens. The pressure that the Browns are feeling right now all gets shoved onto Baltimore if they find a way to go into Baltimore and win.
And you mentioned it. Baltimore has to play Pittsburgh in between these games. And, you know, whatever you think of the Steelers, if you buy into what their record is, if you think they're that good, it doesn't matter. When Baltimore and Pittsburgh play, it's a physical, tough, hard-nosed game. That game is at Heinz Field. It is not an easy task for the Ravens to play the Browns, then play the Steelers, then play the Browns again. If the Ravens lose that game, that's a ton of pressure. Now, if they win it, that makes everything else a little bit easier. But I think there's as much pressure on Baltimore in this game as there is on the Browns.
Dan Labbe, as always, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Dan.
Yep, thank you.
All right, Dan Labbe, make sure you read him. Pages of the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com, the Browns beat reporter. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Tim Bielik will join us, another reporter for the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. We will hear from the voicemail of Truth and Reason when we return. Sports4CLE will be right back.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine and too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams. I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We continue talking Browns. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one on Baker Mayfield being so banged up.
Hi, Dave. This is Ron Byer. Dave, I know fans are starting to get frustrated with Baker Mayfield's performance at quarterback. Everyone, especially Baker, must realize right now his injuries are preventing him from being the best he can be. So I believe for the next 2 weeks, they, meaning the Browns management, needs to set Baker down and try to let him heal and recuperate some before making a decision if he should continue the rest of the year. Bottom line, Baker is a good quarterback when healthy. We cannot snap our fingers and another super quarterback is going to appear. So we need to take care of the one we have and not keep putting him out on the field and ruining him completely. Hopefully, Hunt returns this week, and with Chubb and Hunt, and hopefully the defense keeps improving, I believe we can get by with Case Keenum at quarterback until Baker can improve physically.
All right, let's welcome in Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. And Tim, I know you wanted to talk about this as well. You heard Ron from the voicemail of Truth and Reason. What are your thoughts on that?
Pretty reasonable take, I think. I mean, I think we can all see that Baker's laboring. That, I mean, at the end of the third quarter, he looked really hobbled, came over the sideline. I honestly thought we were about to see Case Keenum enter that game at the end against the Lions yesterday. I mean, it's clear Mayfield is a shell of himself. I mean, he's got 5 injuries. And I was thinking about this. I've said this before on Twitter. Shutting him down is such a difficult thing because if you do it, I believe you have to do it for the season. You have to shut him down, give him the shoulder surgery that he needs on the labrum to just heal that up, because I think that's where all of this has really kind of come from. It's adjusting to playing with the shoulder. The harness is the thing, has been an issue for him. He's had his shoulder pop out twice on him in the first 6 weeks of the season. Had to miss a game because of it. There's a broken bone in there. The other stuff is stuff that will happen to a mobile player. I mean, the knees, that's the kind of thing that will happen sometimes. Bruise heel, unfortunate. And it just all kind of come together and just this massive flood that has really just snowballed out of control, and I think led to a lot of the frustration we saw with Baker Mayfield leaving the field yesterday. So when I look at the idea of shutting him down, I feel like there's a reason. You can understand why the Browns want to do this. They're 6-5. If they go win in Baltimore on Sunday, all of a sudden they go in the bye at 7-5. They got a reasonable shot to win the division, because I think if you're shutting Baker down, and you probably have to do it for the season, then you're probably kind of throwing up the white flag on the season, because I don't know if Case Keenum will be able to get the Browns to 5-1 or 6-0 or whatever it would take probably to win the division the rest of the way. But it's clear Baker's not getting it done right now because he's just not able to perform at the level he is. And to me, it's nothing more than health and just not being able to fight through 5 separate injuries.
Yeah. NFL football's a tough enough game to play when you're healthy. When you're not healthy and dealing with multiple injuries, it's nearly impossible. All right, the offense has struggled, and nobody can debate that. Let's take a look at this tweet from Jake Trotter. Browns have scored more than 17 points only once since October 10th, and it is November 22nd. So that will give you an idea of how much this offense has struggled. And it hadn't been one thing. It's been multiple factors that build on it.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at that October 10th. That was the last game Kareem Hunt played fully. The next game was against the Cardinals. He got injured in that game. He's been out since. Then you look at the teams they played as well. You do have to give some credit in some way to the defenses they played, because the Cardinals have a good defense. The Broncos have a good defense. The Steelers have a good defense, even though they got shredded by the Chargers last night. The Patriots have a really good defense. So in some way, it's due to what the defenses they've gone up against have been pretty good as well. But again, this is a banged up team that has not been healthy at any point this season. I was thinking back all the way to week 1. They have not had one healthy full half of football this entire season. That goes all the way back to the first half against the Chiefs. Jedrick Wills was injured in that game with the ankle, didn't come back in that game. He missed. He came out of the next couple games, missed a couple more games. He's looked fine since then. But then week 2, Baker injures his shoulder. So this team just has never been fully healthy on offense at really any point all season. And when you have no continuity, when everybody's dealing with some kind of injury, it's just tough to get anything going. And especially if your quarterback's injured, you have almost no shot to be consistent no matter who's in the backfield. And of course, that's been hit or miss with Kareem's injury and Nick Chubb missing the Patriots game due to COVID.
Yeah, so Kevin Stefanski was asked today, how do you correct, what's going on with the offense? What is wrong with the offense?
It's something we look at long and hard as an offensive staff. It's never one thing. It's always a combination of things. And yesterday it was penalties. It was a missed field goal, not staying on the field, not converting enough third downs. But it's always a combination of things.
And Tim, if it was a simple fix, you could be sure the folks in Berea would have fixed it already.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it just comes down to just too many things have happened bad against the Browns. Injuries, the schedule ramping up and being way tougher than it was. It's just been such a negative snowball that they just can't get past. And I don't know if they're going to get past it, quite honestly. I mean, Baker Mayfield's not going to be healthy, I don't think, at any point the rest of the season. I mean, what you kind of see is maybe you can hope for a little better version of that as far as mobility is concerned, where he doesn't get hobbled. But then you go up against good defenses the rest of the way with teams like the Ravens, the Packers, the Steelers defenses, teams that can get after the quarterback, and that's going to be a problem. And then, Kareem Hunt's going to have to shake off a little rust. Donovan Peoples-Jones has missed a few games with the groin injury. I think there's just been no continuity. And when the quarterback is not 100%, it's hard to really establish consistency. I know Nick Chubb is back, and the Browns should be lucky Nick Chubb was back, because I don't know how they win on Sunday if Nick Chubb isn't doing what Nick Chubb normally does. And again, that's a week off of COVID. So, I mean, it's impressive that he looked like that. It was good for the Browns to see from a Browns perspective that he looked like he did, but it's been a year, almost like a Murphy's Law type of year for this offense, where anything basically that can go wrong does go wrong.
Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. On the other side of the break, we continue to talk Browns. We'll look ahead to the Ravens. Ravens seem to find a way to win. They've been missing their running backs. Their cornerbacks are hurt. Lamar Jackson's been out. They continue to find ways to win. We will dive into the Ravens and talk a little bit about Ravens-Browns. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
Browns getting ready to face the 7-3 Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore Sunday night on Sunday Night Football. The Ravens have been beat up. They lost J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, their top two running backs. Before the season started, they lost them for the year. They've lost some of their defensive backs. Ravens seem to just find a way to win. J.C. Tretter talked about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the name of the game. Like I said earlier, it doesn't have to always look pretty. Winning ugly, still winning. So it doesn't matter. They've been extremely resilient this year. A ton of credit goes to them. They've been extremely banged up from the start of the year with their injuries and losing a ton of talented players. And they continue to find ways to win. So it's going to be a great challenge for us. I haven't dove into the film on them, but we've played them a ton, and they've been successful for a long time. So it's going to be a great test for us. But they've done extremely well this year of fighting and clawing and racking up those wins, even in games where you kind of take a peek up at the scoreboard and you think, all right, they might lose this one. By the time you get back to the locker room, they win a 66-yard field goal. They've been able to find ways to win in the end. That's kudos to them.
And Tim Bielik, in my mind, that's the sign of a team that believes in themselves. It doesn't matter how we're going to do it; we're going to find a way to win.
I mean, that's due in large part, I think, to just the culture the Ravens had. They've been so successful for so long that's just embedded in their DNA. They don't know how to operate either way. And there's two things I think that helps with why Baltimore continues to win, even though they're shorthanded. Number one, Lamar Jackson's still really good. When you look at his numbers, completion percentage is in the mid-60s. It's not the best. He's only got 6 more touchdowns than interceptions, but it seems like whenever he needs to make a big play, he's always able to do it. And it seems like he's got plenty of talent still around him at the skill positions. Marquise Brown has really started to emerge this season. Mark Andrews is as good a tight end as there is in the NFL. Sammy Watkins has had some decent moments. Rashad Bateman, the rookie, has been good when healthy. The defense can still make some plays, especially with their blitzing scheme. And, anytime you get in a third down against Baltimore, they're going to bring the heat on you. And that's tough to plan against. But the secret weapon for me is, and I wrote about this when I wrote about 3 things to know about the Ravens for this morning on cleveland.com. Baltimore is the only team I can ever think of that's in scoring range the second they hit the 50. As soon as they hit the 50, they're in Justin Tucker's range. I mean, he's the best kicker, probably the best kicker in the history of the NFL at 66-yarder against the Lions. And when you have a weapon like that, who anytime you cross the 50, you're pretty much almost guaranteed to score. That's a huge relief in the offense, especially in a 2-minute drive where, say, if you get a touchback on a kickoff, you're at the 25-yard line. Getting 30 yards is easy. Any NFL offense, any competent offense can get 30 yards. So if the Browns have a lead in the fourth quarter and the Ravens even sniff the 50-yard line, let alone get past it, game's pretty much over.
Yeah, and he's very, very accurate as well. So not only does he have the big leg, he's accurate from long distance. All right, Andy Dalton, who was filling in for the injured Justin Fields, threw for 201 yards, 2 touchdowns in that game yesterday against the Ravens defense that the Ravens then came back and won without Lamar Jackson. But this pass defense for the Ravens is not what it's been. Their cornerbacks are out.
Absolutely. And I was actually looking at the numbers with regards to the Baltimore defense. And when you look at stuff like completion percentage, it's actually not that bad. They have the 4th lowest completion percentage allowed at 60.3%. It's what happens when they let the completions happen, when opponents can't complete those passes. It's about 281 yards allowed per game. That's the second worst in the NFL. Only the Jets are worse at 282 and change. And that's what happens when you miss so many guys in that back end of the defense. So, and I know the Browns are banged up in the, passing department with Baker and all those issues they've had at receiver, but this is really the best chance you're going to get to really get some big gains. And I think if you're the Browns, you just got to find, if you're able to complete some passes, you should be able to get some gains on this Baltimore defense. That's the way it's been all season. And the Bears don't exactly have a vaunted passing offense, and Andy Dalton has been criticized for a while, but he made some nice plays, including that, 4th down throw to a wide open Marquise Goodwin that got the Bears into that game and gave them the lead with 2 minutes to go. So certainly possible to beat this defense.
So the question is, and we've seen Lamar Jackson, and we don't know how healthy he is, did not play due to an illness, was not COVID. How do you slow him down? What do the Browns need to do to negate or not allow Lamar Jackson to take over this game?
I think you got to take a page out of what the Miami Dolphins did against Baltimore on Thursday night. I watched a lot of that game, and they were hyper aggressive, almost like a cover 0, cover 1 defense, where they just put a bunch of guys on the line. You don't know who's coming. You don't know who's not coming. And by doing that, you give Lamar something that he that he struggles with a little bit potentially. And you want to get him sped up. You want to probably get him to play faster than you want him to. And it's easier to do that because there's not as much of a dynamic running threat behind him. I mean, you mentioned it, J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards gone. They've got guys like Devontae Freeman in the backfield, still a solid back, but not nearly in the level of Dobbins and Edwards. So I think you got to put the pressure on the receivers and really dare Lamar Jackson to beat you deep. And if he can do that consistently almost, then so be it. That was the approach the Dolphins had. I'm sure the Ravens will be better prepared for that this time around. But I think that is not a bad way to go. The Browns just need to be willing. Joe Woods in particular, I think, needs to be willing to be aggressive, trust in the players he has, trust in the speed they have, because in a lot of ways, this is a defense designed to play fast and to slow down mobile quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson. If that's what they're designed to do, then this is the time to do it.
I agree wholeheartedly. Tim Bielik, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much. Appreciate it, Tim.
You got it. Thanks for having me on, guys. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you as well. Tim Bielik, make sure you read him in the pages of the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. That'll do it for this edition of Sports4CLE. We will be back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Scheduled guests, Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. We'll also be joined by Spencer Schultz from the Baltimore Beatdown podcast. He'll talk Ravens, Browns and Ravens at Sunday night. We will see you again tomorrow. Sports4CLE. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4.